Omashu, you big, beautiful ball of granite. You got some problems you gotta work out.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Will and welcome back to another spoiler review here on the channel. You can see I'm wearing the same shirt, so we are jumping right in to our episode 3 spoiler review of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. Again, this is a spoiler review, so you have been forewarned. I will be discussing the events that took place in episode 3 of the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series. So if you have not caught up, or if you're like me and you're taking these things one episode at a time, make sure that you watch the episode first, then come back and hear my thoughts on it. If this happens to be your first time checking out one of my videos, hi, my name is Will, and I do geeky stuff on the internet. I do reviews and reactions, discussions, some gaming, some drinking, whole bunch of stuff. I just like to have fun. I hope you enjoy watching this video, and if you happen to enjoy this and you like hearing it from a geeky bear like myself, please subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. So, Omashu, it's a big mountain city. Let's talk about it. So again, with these reviews, I'm really kind of focusing more on discussing some of the differences, and I will be referencing some of the events and the inspiration that came from the animated series, more so as a point of reference, but they are two completely separate entities, so I have opinions on both, and that's what I'm talking about. So, Omashu is the title of this episode, where our team has made it to the great city of Omashu, one of the last remaining strongholds of the Earth Kingdom before the Fire Nation took over most of it. Is this in Ba Sing Se? We're probably not going to see Ba Sing Se until season 2, if we get a season 2. More than likely, we'll probably get a season 2. This episode consists of probably like 3 different plot points or 3 different storylines from a bunch of different episodes into one. Most notably, the events in Omashu not only feature Aang, Katara, and Sokka going to the city trying to find Aang's friend, which is referenced in here, but also the event of Aang and team meeting the Mechanist, who that encounter originally happened at, I want to say it was at the Northern Air Temple, was where that event took place, where a group of people made a home in the Air Temple, and one of them was a mechanic or a mechanist who basically go with, you know, steam power and metals and things like that, and basically built things, not only help the people living there, but also, unbeknownst to a lot of people, were building things for the Fire Nation, and it really kind of put sort of Aang in a difficult spot because the air temples were sacred to him, and obviously 100 years has passed, those things changed. Most of those things have been incorporated into Omashu when it comes to Mechanist and his son, who is in a wheelchair, are basically living in the city, trying to help build things to help the city and the king at the city, but also to try to go up against the Fire Nation. But we also get introduced to another important figure named Jet. Jet was a freedom fighter along with his crew, his ragtag team, who were going at it against the Fire Nation, that Katara ends up having somewhat of a crush on Jet, until you find out Jet's kind of like he's a freedom fighter, but he's also a freedom fighter who doesn't really have the moral compass of protecting people. He sees people as collateral damage. And a lot of that comes from past trauma, which both Jet and Katara have a moment to bond over, not only in the animated series, but within this episode as well, once Katara spends time with Jet, once Jet reveals himself as they're trying to track down the Mechanist as someone who is working for the Fire Nation. At least that's what it's implied. Some of the implications, I'm sure, are revealed in episode 4 with the introduction of the King of Omashu, which we got a brief glimpse of at the end of this episode, but most of it was focused on the kids in the city interacting not only with the Mechanist, but interacting with Jet. We got to spend time with both groups completely separate from each other. Katara was with Jet for a good portion of it, while Sokka got to spend time with the Mechanist. And it kind of continues this thing with Sokka, or with how the season has kind of given Sokka a little bit of a spotlight with his desire to go his own path, where the first episode or two very much focus on him feeling the responsibility of being a warrior when it came to living up to the expectations of his father, or at least the expectations he feels that he got from his dad. Whereas his interaction with the Mechanist really kind of opened his eyes to, like, you are an engineer. And that's actually pretty true to the character, and I'm glad that that was featured in here. And I like that the fact that Aang got to spend time with the Mechanist's son. I forget his name, but, you know, they got to do the whole airbending, gliding, and Aang took a lot more of a active role in trying to do Avatar duties. He was, you know, with the news that these bombings were taking place, initially reported as these are splinter cells of Fire Nation who are in the city. It ended up causing Aang to heed the words that he got from Kyoshi in episode 2 to take a more active role and to do his Avatar duties by helping to investigate, helping to try to figure out where this was coming from. Of course, you find out Jet and his team were the ones causing the bombs in order to get close enough to, I guess, take out the Earth King?
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
It's a little jumbled, I'm not going to lie, and it could have something to do with them trying to merge these multiple storylines into each other. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a little confusing. It's definitely ended on a cliffhanger with, you know, Aang being taken into custody by the Earth Kingdom forces within Omashu, and we're kind of left to see if Sokka and Katara also were captured. That wasn't featured within this episode, but it'll probably be revealed in episode 4. We also get Zuko and Iroh in Omashu looking for Aang, as reports showed that there were sightings of an airbender in Omashu. And we got a good little scuffle between Aang and Zuko, and I really enjoyed that fight. It was very creative and fun, and them actually kind of going toe-to-toe, not with using a lot of bending. They were just using normal martial arts. And I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the fight and how they used their surrounding to really make it more creative than just two kids going at it. The beginning of the episode, though, really kind of showed the end result of some of the resistance within the Fire Nation against Fire Lord Ozai. We get to see how ruthless Ozai is in this episode. And again, that's another big departure from the animated series, because Ozai wasn't even featured until season 2 at the earliest that we actually got to see him, and most of that was in silhouette. We also got our first introduction to Azula, who is the sister of Zuko and the daughter of Fire Lord Ozai, who actually manipulated and infiltrated a group of spies within the Fire Nation, leading them pretty much to their deaths. And that's another thing. The mature theme of this series is not being shied away from. And like, people are getting burned to death, killed mercilessly, no question, no remorse. It shows how insanely efficient Azula is, and how much more cunning and conniving that she is compared to her brother. Did I say Zuko or Azula? I don't know. Hopefully I said it right. I think it's interesting, though, to introduce them early like this, because it kind of gives you an idea of these characters well before their actual introduction to the second season. But considering the shorter time that these episodes are encompassing of the longer overarching story from the animated series, their introduction doesn't feel too out of place. We also got our first looks at Ty Lee and Mai, who are Azula's friends, more so people who don't want to get killed by her. Ozai definitely is giving off terrible father energy. Well, we knew that because he scarred his own son. That's where the scar came from, if you didn't know. Just how, in simple words, it seemed like he's trying to pit Azula's insecurities and, malcontent to her brother against her to, I guess, motivate her to be her. Does that make sense? It's basically, he's like, oh, Zuko found the Avatar. He did the impossible. And Azula, who's been by her father's side the entire time and basically doing everything her father's wanted, probably sees that as like, what the f***? She sends a letter to General Zhao, who both Ozai and Azula kind of implied that Zhao is pointless. He's just there, he's a tool, he's a pawn. But Zhao, willing to do anything to get more power, more status, that's going to motivate him to backstab Zuko a little bit further. As they're trying to escape the city from Zuko losing his cool and starting to shoot off some fire, Iroh took the blame in order to try to draw the guards away from him so Zuko could get out of the city before the city gets locked down. That makes sense. That's very much what Iroh would do, because Iroh as a character loves his nephew more than his brother ever loved his own son. And I like that we're starting to get more and more of that as these episodes progress, because that's a big driving force and what eventually turns Zuko to the light side. I liked the break we got so that everyone could spend time with their other sort of story arcs within this episode. I like the continuing expansion of Sokka. I like that Aang is being a little bit more direct and a little bit more driven, especially after his initial encounter with Kyoshi. Because remember, he doesn't really talk to Kyoshi much in the animated series until much later, like season 3. He really only interacts with Roku for the most part of the first season. And even through a good portion of any sort of Avatar communication, it's all Roku, which I think we will eventually get Roku in this season. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, especially how much it'll differ from his conversation with Kyoshi and how that affects him, or maybe kind of balance him out a little bit. I'm also surprised that we haven't really seen him try to do any other bending. I know they're probably saving a lot of the water bending with Aang until a little later, probably closer to the finale, but I would have liked to have seen him spend time with Katara, even practicing, and even have that moment from the animated series where he kind of starts doing it a little bit better and she gets a little bit jealous. I would have liked that a little bit more. I get it, you're kind of crunched for time and you're trying to do a lot of other stuff in a short amount of time, but that's probably one thing I kind of wish we got. Also, I kind of wish that maybe the Mechanist was left out of this situation, only because I really enjoyed that encounter at the Air Temple in the animated series. But for what we got, I still enjoyed the episode. I still enjoyed the action, especially with Katara and Sokka navigating the delivery system. And I thought the visuals for that were really well done. I thought the visuals for Omashu were great. I really love the scale of the city. We got our Easter egg with the cabbage merchant, played by the same voice actor who actually brought the character to life in animation. I think that's a good way of doing Easter eggs from the animated series, not necessarily having Gran read off the intro. I'm 3 episodes in. I'm still enjoying it. I'm cool with the changes. I think maybe this episode was a little too overstuffed, but it didn't take away my overall enjoyment of the episode. I'm looking forward to our encounter with Boomy, what I'm assuming is happening in the next episode. So I'm very much excited for that, because Boomy was one of my favorite characters. So really good thumbs up for what I've seen so far from the series. But let me know what you think of the series so far. We're 3 episodes in deep. Let me know any thoughts that you have on it in the comments down below. Again, be nice, be courteous with your conversations if you're going to have a conversation in the comments. And, if you liked it, fantastic. I'm liking it too. If you don't like it, I totally get it. It's not perfect. And, it is considerably different, especially with this episode 3, is a big difference and a big departure from how it's been kind of taking cues from the animated series, and you can definitely feel those changes in this episode. So I can understand if it takes a moment for people to kind of get used to it, but remember, this is an adaptation. It's not a beat for beat retelling. There are going to be changes. Let's just see how the changes work. And again, most of y'all have probably seen all the episodes, so I am just taking my time with it. So try to keep spoilers within the period that I'm in, and we'll just kind of go from there. But thank you so much for checking out this episode 3 spoiler review for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Hopefully you did enjoy it, or if you tolerated it. I don't know your feelings, but whatever your feelings are, I validate them nonetheless. But thank you for watching this and all of my videos. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you happen to have been new here and you at least enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on a lot of different social media platforms listed at the end of this video. I got a ton of videos on here you're more than welcome to check out. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, until next time, I will catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did like this video, why not give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends? You can subscribe to the channel by clicking on my gorgeous little face right over there. You can follow me on all the various social media platforms right below. And last but certainly not least, if you've got a few extra minutes, why not check out one of the lovely videos floating right over here. Later.